Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots. Rumble. You know who that other badass jet pilot is? My man, my friend, the guy who watches my six, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother Paul?
Hey, Mr. Drew, good to see you. Feel good today. Excited to do a good show. Hopefully we'll inspire someone to do something good and think something good.
I sure hope it does. You know, Paul, we both are Knick fans, and I was watching the Knick game the other day, and believe it or not, I got this quote from the Knick game. Walt Frazier was talking to Bill Bradley, and that's back in our time when they were the New York Knicks. That I won't ever forget them in my youth, ever, 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 that championship team. But they were talking, and Bill Bradley said this, and I think it's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. He said, "Don't ever look down upon people you don't understand." That's Bill Bradley from the New York Knicks. Once again, don't ever look down upon people who you don't understand. Don't you like that one, Doc?
Yeah, I think that's great. And Bill Bradley's an interesting figure for those who don't know. I believe he was the first $1 million player in the NBA. They called him Dollar Bill for that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And he was a senator.
He was before he was a basketball player, he was a Rhodes Scholar.
Yes.
He's a Rhodes Scholar, then a basketball player with 2 rings, and then he became a senator, ran for president. He didn't get the Democratic nomination, but he stayed as senator. Fantastic guy, and a good friend of mine who, when he was working in advertising, said that he had met him a few times. He always remembered him. He was always very outgoing and understood, life from a different perspective. Because supposedly he said one time that he went and visited Willis Reed, if you remember. Willis Reed was a captain of the New York Knicks from somewhere in Louisiana, I forget. But he went to Willis's hometown, and he said, if I had to grow up under those circumstances, I don't think I could possibly do it, or worse to that effect. Long, long, long time ago. He was a very quiet and understated guy. But the very first time I went to Madison Square Garden and saw a Knick game, which was not very often, I do remember he made the first shot.
Wow. Well, then if you're going to tell your Knicks story, I was there when Willis Reed came out in the Garden. He was hurt. It was for the 7th game of the championship. And when he came out of the locker room, Madison Square Garden went berserk. I haven't ever heard anything like that in my life. It was one of the most exciting things I've ever been at. It really was, Dr. P. You remember that too.
I believe that. I heard it on the radio because they didn't broadcast it on TV then. I heard it on the radio, and just the reaction from Marv Albert, who was the main broadcaster at that time, conveyed that. It sounded that way.
Oh, yeah. And you know what else Dollar Bill could do? That brother could shoot.
Yes.
He could hit them jumpers from corners like I've never heard. Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere, Willis Reed, Earl Monroe, and Walt Frazier. All right, Dr. P, this is our letter from our friend in Paris. Remember, this is the 3rd part of it, and I think on the newsletter next week, we'll probably just print the whole thing. But he says this for people who are over 55, and I really believe all these words are for people over and under 55. Dominique says, some people embrace their golden years while others turn bitter. Life is too short to waste your days with sad moments. Spend your time with positive and joyful people. It puts off on you and your days will seem much better. Don't stress about being forced to live with your children or grandchildren. Sure, being around family seems great, but we all need our privacy too. They need theirs and you need yours. Only do it if you feel lonely and really need help, or you really don't want to live alone. Don't give up your hobbies. If you don't have one, make new ones. You can travel, hike, cook, read, dance. You can adopt a cat or a dog, grow a kitchen garden, play cards, checkers, chess, dominoes, and golf. And next week, I'll read the last part of that. But Dominique's really got it going on. I'm telling you, this is such good advice. And I know if you're not old enough, not living with your children, you discern that. In other words, put that away and listen to the other things he says. But having a hobby is extremely, extremely important. All right, Dr. Paul, Super Bowl. This is the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life. I mean, the Super Bowl is a big time game, but I didn't know it was like this. This year's Super Bowl, the average ticket was $9,000. Dr. Paul, $9,000 for the average ticket. The suite at a Super Bowl this year was $2.5 million. And if you wanted a commercial, just 30 seconds, like we could have had a commercial for the Wingmen show, Dr. B. A 30-second commercial would just cost you a merely $7 million. Now, because of those ticket prices, I'm not sure why, but maybe this was the lowest attended Super Bowl ever. Ever, ever, ever. But on the other hand, because people who didn't have $9,000 for a ticket, they watched it on television. So it was the most highly watched Super Bowl ever. It had 124 million viewers, which is incredible. And the attendance was only around 61,000. Dr. Pete, did you go to the Super Bowl?
No, but I thought I saw you there. But weren't you one of those boxes? You know, you could have gotten, instead of a $7 million commercial, I guess you could have gotten almost 3 boxes. Well, you get two boxes and you'd have $2 million left. And then you can get your tickets for your friends. No, I wasn't there. I did watch it though. It was very thrilling, and I was glad to see it.
But Dr. Paul, I will tell you this. The reason that I even brought this subject up is because it shows the splitting of the classes. It really does. And that's a very dangerous thing. That kind of stuff brings civil war when the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And we did a show on tickets, if you remember, about the price of concert tickets, of like Super Bowl tickets. And Taylor, my girl Taylor Swift said it. The reason we're charging it is because people are paying it.
Somebody can pay it, you know.
That's exactly right. One more thing that I wanted to talk to you about, Dr. Paul, since we're talking about high dollars, that Apple Vision Pro, the new one, that the virtual reality headset, it costs $3,500. And so that's why you and I won't be reviewing it real soon. We'll read about it, we'll talk about it, but I don't think I'm going to buy a $3,500 virtual reality headset. But I'll tell you something, it's a computer on your head. You touch it, there are no buttons. You do it all with your hands. So it's an incredible, amazing technology that has come forth. And I bet you within years, it's going to be like a pair of sunglasses.
Yeah, and if they make enough of them, though, that price will probably come down a little bit.
Sure, it's like, remember the color TVs when they first came out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
that was
amazing.
Buy 85-incher for $400.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of the first HD TVs in Japan in the late 80s when it was a new thing. And they'd have like a little small screen, and they were going for like about the equivalent of about $19,000. The same one you pay about maybe $200 for the same one right now.
Oh, no doubt. Dr. Paul, I had color TV in the projects. A guy came around for $1. He sold you a piece of plastic that had red, yellow, and green. And you put it over your black and white TV, and all my friends came over my house to watch color TV.
We had the same color TV too. I think we had like 2 sheets. We had 2 sheets. It would rip after a while. They were nothing. And you did have color TV, and it looked really good for about 15 seconds. You realize how ridiculous it was. But it was that's
what it was. And let me tell you something. The trip is, back then we were excited.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for listening to us and watching us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X. iHeartRadio. Thank you so much for listening and watching us. We truly, truly appreciate it. We truly appreciate your support. And we have a newsletter at wingmanshow.com. Our newsletters at wingmanshow.com. And last week's newsletter was Steps to Dealing with Anger, which I think is just an incredible, it was a great show that we had about anger, but this newsletter is just so cool. And also on this newsletter, we have a frequent flow line. And that means you can ask Dr. Paul and myself any question you'd like. And we have a letter this week, and it's from a father in Lansing, Michigan, with 2 teenagers. And he's asking Dr. Paul and us, the Wingmen, for some advice. He wants to know our opinion on social media. It is affecting their grades, their self-esteem. It's interfering with family interactions. When they eat, they're on social media. They don't talk anymore because they're on social media, and they want to know what we think about it. Dr. Paul, take it away.
Well, that's a big societal problem. It's his problem. It's everyone's problem. The thing is with the social media, I'm not on it that much. I'm on it just a little bit minimum. But I find myself sometimes getting trapped in the same thing, but I'm aware of it. You're getting these, it hits your kind of your dopamine receptors, your pleasure centers. And that scrolling and looking gets better and better and better and better. More than likely your kids are kind of caught up in that. What you got to do is try to break that cycle, get involved in something to get away from the screens. I was doing a session, a teaching session with a guy yesterday. He was actually teaching me some stuff. He said, hold on, he had his kids that yesterday for something. And he said, wait a minute, I got to go get my kids. I give them eye break times. I think they're young kids, but I give them eye breaks. After an hour, they have to take a break from everything. And he was monitoring that, which is that's not a bad idea. You got to get your kids involved in something else. I'm big into sports, something physical, something where you don't have anything in your hands, because if the addiction gets strong enough, a lot of kids, they overreact to not having the electronic stuff to extreme. I mean, you've seen the headlines. You don't want to get anything that embroiled. I think they need to get into something physical at a minimum, if possible. Something other than just looking at mindless stuff, because they're absorbing things. A lot of times they're not real. Everybody's showing how great their lives are. I think half that is mostly BS. But they're falling for it. And the young mind is easy to get seduced. So I'd say initially, try to get them involved in other things if they can, as a family, and put that stuff down when you're eating. Nothing that important.
Well, we go to restaurants now, Dr. Paul, and we see entire families sitting at a restaurant, nobody talking and everybody on their phone, including the mothers and fathers. So the advice I'm going to give this dad is, first of all, you need to check your social media. If you're on the phone all the time, remember, kids do what we do. Mm-hmm. It just is.
Right.
But this social media thing is an extremely, extremely dangerous thing for children's personalities, for their self-esteem, because they're looking at what other people are thinking of them. And when you said it looks better on the other side, we did that on the 11 Facts in Life.
Yeah.
We sure did that. And it was called envy. And you know what it means? The grass is greener on the other side. And it is, Dr. Paul, because it's fake astroturf. It's
right.
not real.
That's
but
right.
What you have to do with your kids is you have to get involved with them. You start taking them places that they don't need their social media. But what's really a trip, Dr. Paul, is that these kids, young even, have more information in that phone than we ever had. We had encyclopedias. We had to go look up stuff. There is information at your fingertips. The problem is there's also bad information at your fingertips. And so people can continue to look for something that they want to kind of put a positive spin on something that they said, and you can actually research it and find out. You can research it so much that you'll find somebody that agrees with you. And then You'll say, well, look, I found it there. It's not true. Social media can really hurt kids' self-esteem.
Yeah.
I think we're very lucky, Dr. Paul, because you and I could care less about social media
Right.
other than people watching the Wingman show on it, right,
That's
Dr.
right. That's good. Yeah, and that's a thought too. Not as punishment, but as a reward. Get your kids to watch the Wingman show. There are plenty of them. Let them, look at, just go to our site, wingmanshow.com and start looking at it. Let them do that for 30 minutes. Okay, you're on social media for half hour, 30 an hour, put a time limit on it. Okay, but you got to watch your eye break is to watch the Wingman show for an average of about 30 minutes or so. We just set the timer.
I think that's a great, great plan,
Yep.
Dr. Paul. And you know what that brings us to today? It brings us to a Wingman PSA. From the 11 facts in life, this is fact number 6. Avoid these 8 deadly sins. We did pride, we did envy, we did anger, and now today we're doing sloth. Nasty, funky, filthy, lazy, nastoids. Once again, sloth. Funky, filthy, nasty, lazy, nastoids. And where I got that nastoid thing was, I believe that there's a planet up there somewhere called Nastoria. And you have nasty people who come from that planet, invade us, and they try to get us to be nasty too. The one thing you can't be is disgusting and lazy. It is a very poor thing for your future. Do something. Wash your hands. Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Yes.
An emergency PSA. An emergency PSA. If you use the bathroom, wash your hands. An emergency PSA. If you use the bathroom, wash your damn funky ass hands. Sorry, Dr. Paul, but I had to put that emergency in there.
You do.
We were talking about it, Dr. P. I swear to you, yesterday I went to Kroger, I used the restroom. Somebody came out of the toilet and walked straight out the door. And I swear to, I'm telling you, I almost yelled something. Now, our friend Welch, he told me something that I won't ever forget. He was in the bathroom, I think in Europe someplace, but there was somebody in the toilet and the smell was just disgusting. And you know what Welchie said?
What?
Hello, can I get a courtesy flush? Hello, can I get a courtesy flush? And I think that's the funniest thing in the world. But no kidding, Dr. Paul, it's disgusting. And I know you feel the same.
Yeah, you go to see some of these places, restaurants or place of business, and you see a sign that says employees must wash hands. Okay, and you said, well, if you're going to put that up there, maybe you shouldn't hire the employees. But it's probably a requirement. Okay, employees must wash hands, and I think to myself, and they should put another part say, and the rest of you knuckleheads should do the same thing, which wouldn't be a bad idea. It's just thinking off the top of my head. But I'm amazed sometimes at the number of people who don't do that. When they had the initial outbreak of the COVID virus, everything was, wash your hands, wash your hands. And people started to wash their hands a lot, really, really well. Well, from what I've observed, that has kind of faded into the memory of some, assuming they knew it in the first place. And I've seen the same thing. They're coming out of the toilet and boom, they're way gone. There's plenty of soap and water. But the E. coli that you're spreading, all the nasty stuff that's there. One of the nastiest places is actually your cell phone, money, and some other random things that people touch all the time. It's possible actually to have more germs on the button of an elevator, one of the floor buttons, than in a toilet seat. I suppose it's true. So everybody needs to wash it. And you're supposed to wash it for like 20 seconds. Now, no, I don't do that. And they say, well, if you sing a happy birthday song, happy birthday to you, that's about 20 seconds. So I'm not saying to do that. I'm probably not going to do that. But you're supposed to wash your hands for 20 seconds, which any part of that is better than 0 seconds. So wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Please.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Paul, it's now time for the gouge. And the gouge is a Navy word that Dr. Paul and I used and every other Navy member. And it's really things you need to know, or as we say, it's shit you need to know. So this is the gouge for this week, and it's called cold water immersion. Dr. Paul, I've been doing cold water immersion in my pool because it's kind of the winter time now. And I've been getting in water that's 48 degrees to 51 degrees. It is really cold, but I'm telling you, I feel so much better. I only do it for 5 minutes. It takes some breathing exercises. It takes some getting used to, but it's making me feel amazing, like I'm younger. I have more energy. I just love it. But what they really have found out, it actually helps women with menopause, with hot flashes. This cold water immersion has been done in Northern Europe for many years, and they all believe in it. What else does cold water immersion do? It can decrease cortisol. And that's the thing that added with adrenaline makes you have stress. And when you have cortisol and adrenaline, it destroys your organs. So if it can stop cortisol, do it. But how about this one? Just I want to make a quick note. So I'm lifting weights and I'm continuing to study about this cold water immersion. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Katrina and I, we lift weights. And I went in the pool. And guess what, Dr. Paul? Cold water immersion doesn't allow for muscle growth. And the reason is because muscles have to tear, the blood has to be swollen, and they have to repair themselves. And cold water helps ease all your muscles. And so really, you don't build muscles. So I will not be attending, I won't be entering Mr. America next year. What do you think about that cold water immersion?
Okay, well, if you're not entering Mr. America, you're giving someone else a chance. Look at it that way, because you'd obviously win. But yeah, cold water immersion is great. I do it myself. I don't have a big pool, but I'll take cold showers, full cold, and it is freaking cold. It's great. I do it for my inflammation. It's supposed to lower blood pressure and help with inflammation. And it's really helped me with knees. I had some kind of bad arthritis in my knee, my right knee for a while. And after doing it about 3 or 4 months, that pain has probably been reduced for me, about 95%. And it's like, well, and it took me a while to understand what was going on, but it's really beneficial. Yeah, it's uncomfortable initially, but as soon as you stop, you warm right up. You know, my extremities stay a little cold. Sometimes my fingertips will stay a little cold for a while, but everything kind of comes back. And I didn't know that about the muscle building, so I may vary it. I may not do it every day. I may take some days off when I'm doing certain workouts. But it's worth doing. People think you're crazy, but but not my physician, but my wife's physician suggested that to her about 2 months ago. If you can't do it full tilt, take a shower and just make it cold at the very end. He said it'll help you. He's a super fitness guy. So
when you said crazy, you know what popped into my mind? Doctors a long time ago used to smoke in the offices when they were examining you.
yes.
And they
Yes.
were on commercials saying, I like camels.
That's right.
So it's amazing.
They probably weren't doctors or actors, and I play one on TV.
Well, another gouge for you. It's raising adult children. And it's a big discussion. Maybe we'll have a whole show on it one day. But I have to tell you something. Being a parent of an adult child is a lot harder than changing shitty diapers. I will tell you that. But what you have to do is you have to still be a parent. And our children don't need friends. They need mothers and fathers. And that doesn't mean you have to be mean. You have to get your point across. You have to get your knowledge from all the background you have. I call it time on planet. You have more time on planet than they do. So you have more experiences and more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of pushing grown children, you need to nudge them. You need to just whisper to them because they listen to what we say, Dr. Paul. You know that. Our kids, and you swear they're not listening. And then the next thing I know is my son or daughter is saying something that I said 10 years ago, and they swear they made it up themselves.
Right.
I just wanted to say, Dr. Paul, what's your opinion on raising adult children because it's not easy,
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
yeah,
worth it. And if you did your job early, it's a lot easier. I will tell you that.
right. Yeah, it's one of the challenges in life, and yeah, it definitely is harder than if you're changing a dirty diaper. And of course, you change the dirty diaper, wash your hands. You need to wash your hands. But you've washed your hands and it's done. But with life, as you get older, they get older. Everyone's lives get a little more complicated, and the best thing you do is be supportive, give advice when it's needed, even when it's if it's not desired, but it's important for their protection, their safety. Sometimes you need to hear things. You may get an alarm that you don't like. If a fire is going on and an alarm wakes you up, it may disturb your sleep but save your life. So, getting uncomfortable there is worth it. And sometimes you may have to make them uncomfortable with things that they need to see that they can't see. That was done for me.
Very good, Dr. Paul. Well, the name of our show is the Wingman Show, and every week we have a wingman. And this week's wingman, they're very special young ladies. Jacqueline Child. She graduated from college in Colorado, and she was starting to want a date, except that she had a disability. And she got that disability. She had a chronic illness at 14 years old. And so she started getting on dating apps, and she started getting ghosted, and people were saying mean things to her when she brought up her disability. And she was very, very upset and actually very let down. And then she had an idea to talk to her older sister, who's a lawyer. Her older sister's name's Alexa. So they chatted about this, and Alexa said, "Hey, I'm a lawyer, so I fix things." Well, guess what, Dr. Paul? Those two young ladies actually made a dating app, and it's called Dateability. And I just think it's amazing. And Jacqueline was saying that, it's hard to get involved with somebody, even online. You're talking back and forth. And then she said one day she knew she had to get a feeding tube inside of her. And she said, "There's no way I'm going to have a discussion with somebody, tell them I have a feeding tube, and to talk about vomit before we talk about dating." Well, anyway, there is this app called Dateability for handicapped people, for people with afflictions. And it's not just for them, because they both say that you don't need to be handicapped to date handicapped. What do you think, Dr. Paul? Don't you think these two women are amazing and have helped so many people?
Yeah, that's an example of, if life, gives you lemons, give it lemonade. That's very, very unique, and doing something valuable for people that may have had no options before. I wonder, how big that app is. How many
Well, they
people
have
use it?
14,000 people
Okay.
to date, and they say it's getting bigger every day.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe that's one of the positive aspects of social media. It would probably lead to it's their own kind of social media that they can charge of. So social media in that sense can be used for something good.
Oh, no doubt about it. Let me say,
Okay.
I'm not against social media. I'm against people fixating on it, thinking that it is life and law. That's
Right.
all. It's
Right.
just another technology that's incredible. The iPhone that we use, it's incredible,
It is.
but it's not our life. Dr. Paul, for you and all our listeners, whatever you guys think is important, Dr. Paul, for you and all our listeners, whatever makes you guys happy, may you have that today, and may you have it always. Dr. Paul, I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too. And we appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. Send this out to one of your friends or someone that really needs to hear something a little bit different. All the news is not bad. There are good things and good people out there. If you would give us a like, especially if you're watching on YouTube. It helps with the algorithm. Subscribe, click the notification icon. That way, when we come out with a new episode, you'll get an alert. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and refer to use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.